Most respected Thai, dear Sangha, today is the 11th of October in the year 2017, and we are in the Rising Tide Meditation Hall in Magnolia Grove Monastery. And today is the second day of our retreat, Peace in Oneself, Peace in the World. And we are now going to listen to 3 sounds of the bell in order to bring our body and mind back together and to dwell happily in the present moment. This is a happy moment. So, dear Sangha, we heard this morning that today, the 11th of October, is the continuation day of Thai. Traditionally in Vietnam, you don't celebrate your birthday like we do over here. So everybody is 1 year older on the New Year's Day. So everybody have the same birthday. But now in Vietnam, people follow the West and they start to have individual birthdays. So our sisters and brothers who are here, they also celebrate each other's birthday. And when I first came to Plum Village, nobody knew when Thai's birthday was. But then somebody had a look in Thai's passport one day and find out when was his birthday. And from that time on, everyone wanted to have a special cake and special tea meditation for Thai. Thai is quite shy, and Thai really wanted to avoid it, to run away and go somewhere else. But out of compassion, Thai would show up for his birthday celebration. So many people wanted to give Thai a birthday present, and Thai didn't want to receive many boxes of chocolates and flowers and other things. So Thai suggested that our birthday present for Thai should be a particular practice that we wanted to do from what we had learned of the Dharma door from Thai. So we would write on a piece of paper, "Dear Thai, for your birthday present, I will practice walking mindfully up and down the stairs for 2 months or for a year, I don't know how long." So that would be our birthday present for Thai. So usually when we celebrate Thai's birthday, we think about, what can I do? how can I express my gratitude to Thai? And the way I can do it is to practice what Thai has transmitted to me. Thai has often said to us, Thai is always transmitting. Every moment of Thai's life, Thai is transmitting to us. It's up to us whether we want to receive the transmission or not. And so all of us who have known Thai, who have read Thai's books, have received some kind of transmission, something that we want to hand on to the future generations that we have received from Thai. Thai, since I have been in Plum village, since I have known Thai from 1986, I have seen that on many occasions Thai has fleshly body has not been in very good health. But whenever Thai has to give a Dharma talk, he is always there. Thai was always there. One time in Korea, Thai was very, very sick, and he thought there's no way he can give a Dharma talk. But then he suddenly felt that the ancestral teachers were sending him to represent them, and he managed to gather enough strength to go out and give a Dharma talk. That Dharma talk was very important because at that time there was a lot of tension between North Korea and South Korea. And the monk who was organizing the Dharma talk had said to Thai, please remember in your Dharma talk to remind the people that on September the something, I can't remember what day, there will be a day of prayer for peace and reconciliation between North and South Korea. And Thai had said at that time, it's all very well to pray, but praying is not enough. We have to practice to be peace in order for there to be peace in the world. And Thai talked on that occasion. Thai wanted to go out in order to be able to remind people not just of the prayers which the monk had asked for, but also to remind people of their practice. And the practice that Thai wanted to suggest at that time was the practice of listening deeply. And Thai said that in South Korea we have to learn to listen deeply to each other before we can ask to listen deeply to North Korea. We have to show South Korea that we know that in our own country, in the South, we have many difficulties and problems. We are not perfect at all, and many of our people are suffering. But we have been able to sit down and we've been able to listen to the people who feel discriminated against, who suffer. We're able to listen to them and hear their suffering. And when in North Korea they see that you can do that in South Korea, then they will feel encouraged by your humility, and they will be ready to come to have talks where there can be reconciliation. So that is one occasion when Thai was able, with his volition food, the third kind of food, in order to overcome his ill health. But many times Thai practiced mindful breathing and mindful walking in order to bring back health to his body. And this is one thing that Thai has transmitted to us. Every time that we see Thai walk, we receive the transmission of mindful walking. And walking is a real joy. Walking not only heals, mindful walking not only heals oneself, it also heals our planet Earth. And I often think that, how can I help Mother Earth? Of course, I can go to demonstrations against fracking. I can speak out against fracking. But maybe I can't do that all the time. But there is something I can do every day, every time I walk, every step I take. I can heal Mother Earth with my steps. So I bring my attention into the sole of my feet, and I touch the earth with all my love. And as I do that, I heal myself, and I also heal the earth. And in fact, the earth and myself, we are not separate. I'm a child of the earth. I am born of the earth. I have to return to the earth. So my peaceful steps on the earth can heal myself and heal the earth at the same time. Every step is healing. You can say to yourself as you walk, every step is healing, is healing. Every step is healing me. Every step is healing the earth. That is the wonderful thing that I learned from Thai. And in the beginning, I just wanted to what I say? Imitate Thai. I saw Thai walking so beautifully. I thought I can do that too. So I tried to be like Thai, to look like Thai on the outside. And I thought, oh yeah, this is something I can do. And then I began to follow my breathing with my steps. And I wasn't looking like Thai from the outside, but I could feel like Thai from the inside also. The very first time I met Thai was in a retreat in England. It was very, very cold, and we were in a big drafty castle. So I chose a very bad retreat venue for Thai. I never met Thai before, and I had to organize the retreat. It was snowing outside. Still, Thai came and put his whole heart into leading that retreat. And before the retreat began, Thai would often ask me to go and do something, go and fetch something, go and organize something. And I was so keen to do what Thai said, and I would run off to do it. And then Thai would call me back. And then he would say, we have plenty of time. You don't have to run. You can take every step in your own time. Enjoy every step. So I listened to Thai, and I learned to overcome that habit energy of always wanting to do something and finish doing something quickly in order to get on and do the next thing. About 3 years ago, not long before Thai had a stroke, we were in the hermitage, and Thai was lying in his hammock, and I was sitting alongside. And Thai had a clock with him. It's going tick, 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 tock, tick, tock. And Thai said, you don't need to think about anything. Just let your breathing go in rhythm with the tick, tock, TikTok. And so and I say, you just feel your breathing. So then I just felt my breathing. And I felt so comforted by my breathing. I just enjoy the feeling in my chest, or the breathing in and out, and then I feel my abdomen. And it was very comforting for me. And I thought at the time, in the Christian tradition, they talk about the Holy Spirit. And they talk about the Holy Spirit as the paraclete or the comforter. And the Spirit is the breathing, and the Holy is the mindfulness, and the comfort I feel within from my breath. So my breath is something very enjoyable. So many billions of years when the earth has been forming itself. In the beginning there was no oxygen and there were no breathing beings. And then some clever bacteria, they learn how to get the oxygen out of the, I don't know what they did, the hydrogen or something. And ever since then we've evolved the ability to breathe, and we connect to breathe with being alive. So I wrote the song, Breathe and You Know That You Are Alive. Because one day when I was meditating and enjoying my breathing, I just suddenly felt, I'm alive. It's wonderful. And I can only be alive in the present moment. I'm not alive in the past, I'm not alive in the future. And this morning we sang the song, Happiness is here and now. And it's true, I can't be happy in the future. I can't be happy in the past. I can only be happy now. And if I can really touch the present moment, I will find so many reasons things that can make me happy. Sometimes we feel happy because we're excited. We think, good, tomorrow, I don't know, I'm going to hear a Dharma talk. So we feel happy. If you feel happy about that kind of thing, then if not, tomorrow I'm going to see a film. And you think that, and you feel happy. But that kind of happiness is not based on reality. Maybe the Dharma talk will never happen. The film will never happen. So the Buddha said, don't run into the future and don't stray back into the past. The future no longer is, the past has not, the past no longer is, the future has not yet come. So that is our challenge. One day I was with Thai in the European Institute in Germany. And we were organizing a retreat. I was thinking about how to organize the retreat. I have a lot of thinking in my head. I was walking up the stairs. We have many stairs, a very tall building. Thinking, and then I didn't know who's walking down the stairs. Actually, it's Thai who's walking down the stairs. And Thai saw me thinking, walking up the stairs. So, of course, when I saw Thai, I have to stop. Thai is bell of mindfulness. I'm not receiving transmission from Thai, the Thai steps. I've forgotten my steps. And Thai look at me and Thai says, this is a challenge. Every step can be a happy one. Every step can bring happiness. That is your challenge. I feel a little bit ashamed. Thai caught me out running when I should be walking mindfully. I'm a Dharma teacher. I'm talking about mindful walking and I'm not doing it. I'm not walking my dog. So I feel a bit ashamed. But I remember that. And sometimes when I don't feel very happy, I challenge myself. Every step can bring happiness. And at first, I take an in-breath and I take a couple of steps and I ask myself, am I happy yet? And I see, not yet. But at least I'm not thinking about things that make me suffer anymore. So I am on the way to happiness. And then another 2 steps, I feel happy. So this reminds me of another story about Thai. It's that same retreat we had in that drafty castle. Luckily, the sun came out one day and we were able to do walking meditation. And we were near the sea, so we did the walking meditation down to the sea. And when we reached the seashore, Thai had us sit down and listen to the waves. Well, I don't know, he didn't say that, we just sat down. And I was sitting next to Thai, and I don't know what I was thinking about, but I wasn't truly present. So Thai turned to me and Thai said, what is everyone doing? So I thought, so I don't know what I said. Thai said, what is everyone doing? So I said something like, oh, they're sitting on the seashore or something like that. It's a very silly answer, because Thai has 2 good eyes. Thai can see that everyone is sitting on the seashore. And when a Zen master asks a question like, what is everyone doing? He doesn't expect an answer like that. It's like if Thai walks into the kitchen and you're cutting carrot, and Thai comes up to you and says, my child, what are you doing? And you say, Thai, I'm cutting carrots. Thai feel very disappointed. Thai said, I have 2 good eyes. I can see you're cutting carrots. So Thai said, what? And then I said that. And then Thai said, no. Thai said, no. What they are doing, my child, is they are transforming neutral feelings into pleasant feelings. So I was very new to the practice. I never really heard about this before. So I thought, oh, that's very interesting. Transforming neutral feelings into pleasant feelings. So I said to Thai, oh, Thai, how are they doing that? How are they doing it? And Thai said, how do you think? So I said, by thinking. And Thai said, no. No, by being aware. So we have these 4 kinds of feelings. Pleasant feelings, painful feelings, neutral feelings, and mixed feelings. Feelings which are both painful and pleasant at the same time, or almost the same time. And so often we are experiencing neutral feelings. A neutral feeling means you're not in pain, but you're not having a pleasant feeling. Normally, if you're not in pain, you could be having a pleasant feeling, could you not? There's no reason why you shouldn't. But in fact, we don't do that. We just have this neutral feeling, neither pleasant nor painful. And the reason why the Buddha taught these categories, pleasant, painful and neutral was because the Buddha wanted us to practice. It's not because the Buddha wanted to chop reality into different sections and segments. Just the Buddha wanted us to be able to practice. So the Buddha points out neutral feelings so that we can recognize when we have neutral feelings and we can be aware, and that very awareness will bring us a happy feeling, a pleasant feeling from the awareness. We don't have to think, oh, I have 2 good eyes. I should be happy about that. One time in a retreat, retreatant put a question in the bell, and the question was, I practice to recognize I have conditions for happiness, like 2 good eyes, 2 good feet, etc., but I don't feel any more happy than before I did that practice. So I don't know if anybody here experienced like that. I tell myself I have 2 good eyes, but I don't feel happy. That is because I'm just up here in my head. It's just an idea. It's not a feeling I have. It's not a feeling of how wonderful. And that feeling of how wonderful, it comes from my awareness. It doesn't come from my thinking. And so when I'm aware, when I take a step and I'm aware of my step, I'm aware, here I am in this present moment. So many wonderful things, they open up. And if I remind myself, this is a happy moment, and I really stay in the moment, I don't stay in the thought, this is a happy moment, when I'm not really there in my body and in my mind, then just by staying in the present moment, 100% there, the wonderful things of life, they will begin to manifest and show themselves to me, so I can value that moment. We had a day of mindfulness on Sunday, and Sister Hoa Nghiêm gave the talk in Vietnamese. And before she gave the talk, she came to me and she said, I'm going to give a talk on the 4 mountains: birth, death, sickness, old age. I said, oh good, that'll remind everybody to practice. So she said to me, Sister, I'm not giving the talk in order to remind everybody to practice, to push everybody to practice, to encourage everybody to practice. I'm giving the talk just to remind people to value, to see how precious, to see how precious life is, to see how precious every moment of life is. So if you were Lin Chi and you ask in that conversation who was the guest, who was the host, you could say Sister Hoa Nghiêm was the host. Chön Đức was the guest. You understand the language of Zen? Not yet, but it's just to say Sister Hoa Nghiêm was giving a teaching to Sister Chön Đức. So, yeah. Because actually the 2 things in a way go together. When we practice, we value life. And when we value life, we practice. But to put it in the way that Sister Hoa Nghiêm put it, I'm teaching this just so that people value life, see how wonderful life is. is a better way to put it. Because if you say, I'm teaching this in order to encourage people to practice, then it makes the practice sound like something you have to do, a constraint. And the practice is for our enjoyment. And whenever children come up in a question and answer session, and they say, Dear Thai, why do you practice sitting meditation? Thai has a very simple answer. Thai says, because I like it. And that is our motivation, our enjoyment of the practice is our motivation. So we have these different kind of feelings, these pleasant feelings, these neutral feelings, and these painful feelings. And the neutral feelings we really need to be aware of and take care of them, because we can waste a lot of our day in neutral feelings. If you count up how many neutral feelings you have during a day, you may find that they come to more neutral feeling than pleasant feeling or painful feeling. Maybe you have 75% neutral feeling, and you don't need to. You could be having pleasant feeling. And the way to have pleasant feeling is to be aware, to be really present, to be there in the present moment. So another story about a transmission from Thai was when I first came to Plum village. When I not been practicing very long, Thai was printing the newsletter, the Lata Lan Mai, the Plum Village newsletter. And Thai said, tomorrow please come to the hermitage and help Thai print the newsletter. So and Thai told me how many copies we had to print. It was quite a lot. So Thai said we probably need the whole day to do this. So Thai also said that he would teach me how to use the printing press. Thai had a very old printing press in the hermitage, and he called that printing press his buffalo. Because he said that you have to, when you work with the buffalo, when you have a buffalo to help you on your land, you need to know the characteristic of the buffalo. All the buffaloes, they have a different characteristic. And similarly, when you work with a printing press, you need to know the characteristics of the printing press. Because just as a buffalo can be a bit difficult sometimes, so a printing press can be a bit difficult sometimes. And I say this printing press, it has 3 speeds: fast, medium, and slow. So Thai said, I don't know anything about the fast speed. Thai had never used the fast speed, he didn't know. Thai said that he tried the medium speed once, but he didn't like it because it was too fast. Sometimes when something went wrong, you couldn't correct it in time, and then you wasted ink and paper. So there's only one speed that Thai ever uses, that is slow. I think that Thai tells me, when Thai tell you something like that, is not to give you information, is to tell you about your practice, encouraging you in your practice. Slow down and stop. So when I arrived, Thai said that, oh, I just lit the fire in the printing room. So in those days in Plum Village, we didn't have central heating. We used to have these ceramic stoves in every room, which would use wood, and you put the wood in and it, light the wood in the stove, and then it warms the room up. So Thai said that it's too early for us to go in the printing room. It will be too cold. So we can have a cup of tea, and then we can do some walking meditation. So we did one thing at a time. And Thai's name is Hanh, one action. And that is, Thai does so many things, but always one thing at a time. When Thai does something, Thai does it with his whole body, his whole mind, his whole heart. One thing at a time. Uni-tasking. So Thai said, we'll have a cup of tea, and we make the tea in mindfulness. So Sister Hop Mim told me that this year we have to make our own tea bag. Is correct? We have to make our own tea bag, huh? You have to put the tea in the tea bag yourself. You don't have this tea bag where you just put in the cup. So that is an opportunity for you to receive a transmission from Thai. Put the tea in your tea bag. You are 100% there while you're putting the tea in. You're doing that as a birthday present for Thai. And then put your tea bag in the water, also there. And then drink your tea. Enjoy your tea. You don't need to read a book. I imagine we have put in storage our electronic gadgets during the retreat. So I don't need to say you don't need to use your electronic gadget. So you can put down your book and just drink the tea in order to drink the tea. So many times when Thai gave a Dharma talk, Thai would drink a cup of tea while he was giving the Dharma talk. And it didn't mean to say that the Dharma talk stopped when Thai drank the tea. The tea drinking was the Dharma talk. Thai used to say, where's this tea going? It's going into the Dharma talk. So one time we organized a public talk for Thai in a very big gymnasium, and the sound system was not good at all. And many people couldn't hear a word Thai was saying. And many people left because they couldn't hear. And the next day I met someone who'd been to the talk. And I said, did you hear? And they said, no. I said, did you leave? And they said, no. They said, I got the talk even though I didn't go. Because just by watching Thai, I received everything I needed to receive. So whether we get the transmission or not, it depends on us. Because Thai is transmitting to us all the time. So Thai drink the tea, and we can also drink our tea like Thai. We can drink our tea like the Buddha. That is why we have tea meditation when we have it. It's so that we can be a Buddha as we drink the tea. Our Buddha nature can drink the tea. So after that we did a very nice walking meditation around the hermitage. And I was a little bit concerned because I thought we have so many of these magazines to print. And I have to go home before it gets dark. I don't know whether we'll do it or not. So I didn't know, should I remind Thai that time is passing? So I thought, no, I better not. I never know, sometimes I never know whether I should remind Thai or not. One time we were in a retreat in England, and we used to have walking meditation before lunch. And the retreat organizers, they saw us come late for lunch one day. And they weren't very happy. And they said, you know that lunch is at 1 o'clock. You have to be there because we have our schedule, we need to rest after lunch and we need to clear up after you. So please make sure that you're there. So I said, okay. And the next day we went on such a beautiful walk. And we were sitting on the cliffs, we were in Devon, looking at the sea. The sea was blue, little white waves on the shore, and we were enjoying so much, sitting in the gorse, very fragrant. And I saw Thai sitting there looking at the sea, and Thai was enjoying it so much. And I felt very bad, and I looked at my watch because it was 1 o'clock. I thought, oh dear. And then I said, dear Thai, it's 1 o'clock. Would you like to stay and look at the sea a bit longer? And Thai said, okay, we'll go. So we went. One story always reminds me of another story. This story is about Thai's clairvoyance. I think so. So that day we were in Japan, and we were doing walking meditation. And normally we do walking meditation for an hour. And then we went on and on. It was getting near to 2 hours walking meditation. And I was getting a little bit irritated. And I thought, we have to have lunch, and then we have to get the train to somewhere. We had to go somewhere on the train, and the train is at whatever time. I thought, we'll never have lunch and get the train. So when we get back to the place, the venue, after the walking meditation, I said to everybody who was coming with us on the bus going to train, don't take your lunch. It's too late. We just have to get on the bus and go and get the train. So we got on the bus and then got the train. And then the next day we heard that for that lunch people had gone out into the mountains and picked some kind of herb, but they not recognized what herb it was. They picked the wrong thing, very poisonous herb. So, yeah, I think there's something that Thai's merit that took us so that. So that is another reason why I'm very loath to remind Thai about the time. Anyway, we came back into the hermitage, and I said, yes, I think now it'll be warm enough, and we can go and we can begin the printing. And we did it in a very relaxed way, and Thai taught me how it's a very old-fashioned kind of printing press, how to put the thing in a frame, and then how to put the frame in the printing press and everything. And then we did it on slow and slow and slow. Every page came out very slow. And then Thai said, when it was time to finish, Thai said, I think it's enough for today. We only have to make another 200 copies, and I can do that easily tomorrow morning. So it was good. Yeah, we did it. Okay, so and now we come on to talk a little bit about the Four Noble Truths. Recently, I don't know if any of you know Cherry Maples, who was the Dharma teacher, lay Dharma teacher of Plum Village. And I recently went to a memorial service in her honor. And before I went, I listened to a Dharma talk she gave. She had a very serious bicycle accident, and while she was recovering last February, she was able to come to the Sangha and give a Dharma talk. And in that Dharma talk, she talked a little bit about the Four Noble Truths. She talked about suffering and happiness and a breakthrough that she had had while she had been so ill, so injured. And she said that when you have a very deep experience like that, a deep experience of a spiritual kind, when you have a breakthrough, it's very difficult to put into words. And the Buddha also said that. The Buddha said that after the Buddha sat at the foot of the Bodhi tree and realized enlightenment, the Buddha thought, there's no way you can put this into words. And the Buddha was very reluctant to talk about and had to find a way to talk about that breakthrough. And the way the Buddha found was to talk about the Four Noble Truths and the Noble Eightfold Path. So Cherry Maples also said that she had a breakthrough about happiness and suffering. I don't know. It's something like this. On the one side, there is suffering. And on the other side, there is happiness. And you have the right to choose. You can choose whether to be in the suffering or not. And of course, that choice, it depends on the Noble Eightfold Path, right view, right thinking, and so on. So it's like the Four Noble Truths. Of course, there is suffering in life. We can't avoid it. But do we know how to handle it? That is the thing. And if we can handle our suffering, then it can become a mixed feeling at first, a feeling when there is both happiness and suffering. And then sometimes it can become a very deep happiness because it has the background of suffering. And so it's like if you have a black cloth and you put something white, the white is very clear. But if you put something black on a black cloth, you don't see it. So on the background of suffering, the happiness has become very clear, very real. So this reminds me of one time when Thai told us about a dream that Thai had had. Thai said that he was with his younger brother, holding the hand of his younger brother, and they were in a market, and there were many stalls, and one of the stalls looked a little bit like the stall of someone who's selling different kinds of medicines. You know, in old apothecary stores, they have all these little drawers with different kind of herbs in. So one stall looked like that. And Thai and his little brother was standing in front of that stall, looking at the different things and wondering what was in them. And then the owner of the store came out from behind, and he pointed to all the drawers he had, and he said, "This is the suffering that you've been through, and you have to go through it again." So when Thai heard that, Thai said, "Oh no." But then Thai took a breath, and Thai said, "Okay, with the Sangha, we can do it. It's okay. We'll do it." So that was a defiance against the destiny, against the... So sometimes we don't want to look at the first noble truth. We want to run away from... We want to run away from suffering, or we want to fight it. We don't want to accept it as it is. And if we're going to handle our suffering, we have to accept it. We say peace in oneself, peace in the world. And when we look around us, we see that Mother Earth, she has to suffer. She has to be fracked. She has to suffer other things like a lot of garbage that we produce, and then we don't know what to do with it. We put it back in the sea, or we put it back in the hole in the earth, and some of it's very toxic. So we feel a lot of suffering outside of us, but then we also have the suffering inside of us. And when we look at the suffering outside of us, we sometimes say, "Oh, there's nothing I can do. I'm powerless." And so we feel frustrated and we feel despair. And sometimes when we look at the suffering inside of us, we may feel the same. There's nothing I can do about my suffering. And then we feel despair. So that is because we don't know how to handle our suffering. And the Buddha has given us the noble Eightfold Path to help us to handle our suffering. And when we can handle the suffering that is within us, we also feel that we can handle the suffering that is going on around us. So the Noble Eightfold Path is a way. And you could say that the Noble Eightfold Path is the way out. But we also have seen the calligraphy of Thich that says the way out is the way in. So when we practice the Noble Eightfold Path, first of all, we have to see it as a way of coming back to ourselves, as a way in. And we have also heard the teaching, be an island unto yourself. Be your own island. Come back to the island within yourself. So that is the first step, to come back inside, to take care of our body and our mind. And our body and our mind are not two separate realities. When we take care of our body, we also take care of our mind. But the Buddha, in order to make the practice available to us, as we said before, had to put things into categories, had to make division between this and that. And so the Buddha made a division between the body and the mind. And we also do that in our daily life. We talk about our body and our mind as two different things. But when we make that division, we should also remind ourselves that body and mind are really one and the same thing. It's like this piece of paper. They have a retro and a verso, but they are both the same piece of paper. This is body, this is mind. You can't divide the two from each other. So when the Buddha taught the 4 establishments of mindfulness, the Buddha had to talk about mindfulness of body and then mindfulness of feelings, as if body and feelings are two separate things. So in the beginning we look at it like that they are two separate things. And we practice the mindful breathing as part of our body. So breathing in, I'm aware of my in-breath. Breathing out, I'm aware of my out-breath. But it's not just a matter of saying, breathing in, I know I'm breathing in. Breathing out, I know I'm breathing out. We have to feel that in-breath. We have to feel it with our whole being. We have to feel the out-breath with our whole being. Not just repeat the word in and out. And we can feel our breath there from the beginning up until the end. How it goes into many different parts of our body. And as we do that, we get in touch and we feel our whole body. And when we feel our whole body, when we are doing sitting meditation, we don't see our body. Maybe we have what is called proprioception, and we can feel the part of our body that is in contact with the earth, in contact with the seat that we are sitting on. But the rest of our body, we feel like it's energy. We just feel the energy of our body when we follow our breathing, aware of our whole body. And we see at that point that energy and matter are not two separate things. Like scientists, what do they say? You can make energy out of matter, but can you make matter out of energy? And for a long time, I think scientists say, no, you can't make matter out of energy. And then they discovered that you can use light to make matter. And I think Einstein said that you can make matter out of energy. So energy and matter, just like body and mind, they are not two separate things. And when we get in touch and we say, breathing in, I am aware of my whole body. Breathing out, I'm aware of my whole body. We are very much aware, not just of matter, but also of energy. And so when you practice walking on Mother Earth, don't just feel that you're walking on matter. You are also walking on spirit, because Mother Earth is much more than matter. And then we say, I'm aware of my whole body, and breathing in and breathing out, I relax my whole body. So that is also a matter of getting in touch with the energy in your body. Is the energy in your body tense, or is it relaxed? So although you say that you are practicing mindfulness of the body, at the same time you are practicing mindfulness of the feelings. And this is the Noble Eightfold Path. This is right mindfulness. When you are taking care of yourself with loving kindness, that is right mindfulness. If you are forcing yourself to be mindful, if you're trying very hard, then that might be wrong mindfulness. And the Noble Eightfold Path is right mindfulness. So this is a way of handling our suffering, so that it can become a mixed feeling and then become a pleasant feeling. The way of right mindfulness. And then another part of the Noble Eightfold Path is called right thinking. So we're thinking a lot of the time. And much of our avoidable suffering comes from our thinking. And if our thinking is causing us to suffer, then we cannot call it right thinking. And sometimes our thinking, like we said before, gives us a pleasant feeling. But that does not mean to say that it's right thinking just because we get a pleasant feeling. It could also be wrong thinking. Like, if I could have a glass of orange juice, I would be happy. So this wrong thinking. If I could, is wrong thinking. And of course, if I had another wrong thinking, if I could have a glass of wine, then I'd be happy. That's wrong thinking on several levels. One is wrong thinking because if I could, it's not a reality. Another is wrong thinking because wine, it will not bring my body peace, and it will not bring peace to the world. So, thinking gives rise to feelings, pleasant or painful feelings. And if it's giving rise to a painful feeling, then we can either change the thinking or we can stop thinking. We can just stop thinking altogether. That's one thing. In the supramundane, meaning right thinking is no thinking. Just like right view is no view. But on the relative plane, right thinking can still be a kind of thinking. So instead of thinking, oh, he is such a bad person, he is so irritating, instead of thinking that, you can think, oh, that poor person is suffering. Where does his suffering come from? Can I help him to suffer less? So that would be right thinking. Thinking that will lead to reconciliation. So the Buddha teaches us sometime to change the peg, change the CD, and now we don't even have CDs anymore, so change the CD is also out of date. I don't know what to say anymore. Change the channel. It's up to us how we think. And another way the Buddha taught is slow down your thinking. Can you just let one thought come slowly, and then another thought comes slowly, and slow down the thinking until it stops? Because if you're running very fast, you can't stop straight away. If you watch people who are running a race, they can't just stop when they get to the stop line. They have to slow down. So if you're thinking a lot, you can slow down, just one thought at a time. And you can see how your thinking is made up of many little feelings and perceptions. They're all coming together very fast. And you can sort of dissolve your thinking into many different parts by letting it slow down. So another part of the Noble Eightfold Path is right action. And when you have a depression, then you need to take some action. You need to do something. I know that last night we were told about going to a meditation retreat and doing nothing. It's wonderful it's correct to do nothing. I also know that Thich also taught us that whenever we get sick, the first thing we think, what should I do? What medicine should I take? What doctor should I go to see? And we all think what we can do. And Thich said the best thing is do nothing. Just rest. But there are times when we need right action. Thich one time said that if you find yourself in a difficult situation and you know that there is somebody who can help you, even if that person lives thousands and thousands of miles away, you should buy an aeroplane ticket and go and see that person who can help you. And one time when I was suffering, I thought, oh, there's one person who can help me. So I said, okay, go and buy a ticket and go and see that person. Because sometimes we imprison ourselves in our suffering, and we don't dare to take some action to get out of it. We get used to our suffering and become like normal. We don't take any action. So there are also times when I say to myself, come on, come on, go for a walk, go and enjoy nature. You need to do something at that moment, not sit and do nothing. So I hope you don't think that we're all contradicting each other and arguing with each other. It's not that at all. It's just that the teachings of the Buddha are medicine, and we have to take the right medicine at the right time. So when the medicine is do nothing, you should take. When you need the do nothing medicine, you should take it. When you need the do something medicine, you should take it. That is the trouble with teachings. You have to be intelligent and know how to receive the teachings. You have to be your own doctor sometimes. So right action is just like we said before. Right view is no view. Right thinking is no thinking. And right action can be no action. There are times it's very important. You want to do something. You are irritated, you are angry, you want to do something, you have to do something. And you do something that causes a lot of trouble because you're not at peace. And somebody comes to you and you say, okay, you have to decide. You have to say yes or no. And you're not ready to decide. Your mind is not peaceful to decide. But you make the decision, and then afterwards you regret it. So it's very true that sometimes right action is no action. When you're not at peace, when your mind is not clear, how can you do the right action? But when you see clearly, yes, I need that person to help me, then you buy your ticket, you do something. Right action, it needs right mindfulness, it needs right thinking. All the elements of the Noble Eightfold Path, they go together. And there are so many more wonderful ones for us to discover, a way to help us get out of our suffering, to handle our suffering, like right livelihood. What if I am doing a job that I don't like, and every day when I have to go to work I suffer? Is that good for my heart? No, it's not good for me. But it brings in a good salary, so I keep doing it, even though I suffer. Is that right livelihood? And then one day I say, okay, I can give up my car, I can give up my house, I can just do what I love to do. And I don't get a big salary anymore, but I'm happy. Then we would call that right livelihood. So we're talking about the Noble Eightfold Path as the way in, and at the same time the way out of our suffering, the way to handle our suffering. We don't want to get rid of suffering. We don't want to throw suffering away. We want to be able to handle it, to take care of it. And sometimes that we are in a bit of a jungle. The jungle, you could talk about it like Sister Hanh Yim, as the jungle of birth, old age, sickness and death. The suffering of being separated from those you love and not being with those who you don't love. So we feel that we're in a jungle. And then we think that we can find a Buddha or a teaching that can get us out of the jungle. And in the sutra it said that the Buddhas do not remove wrongdoing with water, nor do they remove suffering with their hands. Beings are saved by the teachings of truth, the way things are, something like that. We had a retreat in England, and the brothers and sisters, they wanted to do a skit. So I just went along and did the skit. I learnt my part and did it, and I didn't really think about it. I just thought it was a skit in the be-in. Do you know somebody called Monty Python? I never knew anything about Monty Python until I did that skit. It was based on Monty Python. Yeah, Monty Python is want to buy some cheese, and he goes to a cheese shop, and everything he asked for here they don't have. So the brothers and sisters, they adapted this skit, and they make it, you go to what is called a spiritual food shop, and you ask for different kinds of spiritual food. So I was the person I have to go and ask for the spiritual food. I asked for many things. I said, I've just been to the retreat, but it was beautiful weather, and I spent the whole time sunbathing on the football pitch, and I didn't go to any of the talks. I didn't go to the Dharma sharing, so I feel I'm a bit missed out. So I've come to the spiritual food shop in order to be able to buy some spiritual food. So everything I asked for, they didn't have. And in the end, I became very frustrated. And I became angry. And I said something like, if you say, no, you don't have this, when I ask you for the next kind of spiritual food, I'm going to get very, very angry. And so the person's Brother Fablai, who's standing behind the counter, he started to shake. He was very afraid. So then I said, okay, so do you have, I don't know, something like nirvana? Well, he said, no, I'm sorry, I don't. So I got very angry. And then he said, never mind, I can help you overcome your anger. And so then I really needed the spiritual food of my breathing, and I had to practice it. So that is about the teachings. They are given to us like guidelines in terms of words. But we can't keep them like that. We can't just receive the words and keep them inside us like words. We have to digest them. We have to digest those words so that they become part of our flesh, our bones. And so when we receive the teachings, we have to apply them, not as words, but as practices that really handle our suffering, that help us get out of our suffering. Yeah? It's like giving a Dharma talk. I can talk about impermanence, I can talk about no self, but they are just words. And if, for instance, I talk about impermanence and I hadn't really practiced it, I hadn't really lived it, and I talked about it, and then you got the words and you didn't really practice, didn't really live it, then both of us would have failed. And if I've experienced something and I talk about it, I've lived it and I talk about it, and then you hear the words, but you keep the words, you don't live it. Yeah. So that is why in Buddhism we talk about being an island to yourself, knowing the better way to live alone. These things emphasize that we have to come back to ourselves and apply and live the teachings. And yesterday Sister MGM was a little bit quoting from, or I remembered, the eminent master Thich, who said that you have to play the music. Yeah, it can't just stay as notes on a piece of paper. So during this retreat we have a wonderful opportunity to benefit, to profit from the Sangha energy. And the Sangha energy will give us the chance to be able really to bring the teachings into our daily life. And if we find that they don't make sense, we have the chance on a retreat to, in a consultation or in a Dharma sharing, we have a chance to ask about something. If the words haven't helped us so far, we may ask for more words, they may help us. So that is the wonderful thing about the teachings that Thich has given us, is that they are concrete, they are practical, they are applied. We don't have to keep them in our intellect. We can enjoy them deeply in our daily life. And Thich always said that a real teacher is someone who can show his or her disciples the teacher in themselves, and not someone whom the disciples rely on, have to rely on forever. If you are a teacher and you just want your disciples to rely on you, maybe you should look again at your way of being a teacher. A real teacher is someone who doesn't want his disciple to rely on him or her, who wants his disciple to discover the teacher in him or herself.